Hey, what's good, everybody? I'd like to welcome you all back to another episode of the Boombox Guru channel. I'm your host, LB. So today I got another CD update for you all. This one's going to be mainly focusing on a few rock and metal CDs that I've managed to purchase in the past few months. Some of these are like reissues. Some of them are some classic albums that were released probably like back in the 90s and so forth. And some of them are some new releases that actually came out this year. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get into this video. So I'm going to show you the first one. First CD that I want to talk about is Meshuggah, Chaosphere, released in 1998. So this actually is a 25th remastered version. It's the 25th anniversary, and it's got a whole new remastered sound and everything. I actually already own a copy of Chaosphere. It's actually the reloaded version that Nuclear Blast put out several years ago. But this remastered version, I highly recommend to anybody that's a fan of Meshuggah. And the reason being is because it has a whole better sound quality. I mean, the sound quality is such a vast improvement over the reloaded version and more than likely the original version. Chaosphere is actually one of my favorite Meshuggah albums, but one of my biggest issues I've always had with it was that the production just didn't sound all that great. The music, the sound, sonically, it just always sounded very thin. And it's one of those albums where you had to like turn the volume almost to max to really get a feel for it. But this remaster version, it fixes that issue. As soon as the first track comes on, you're just hit with that heaviness and intensity and brutality that Meshuggah is known for. And I'm also able to hear a lot of stuff musically that in the band's performance that I wasn't hearing in my version and more than likely in the original version. Because this remastered version is a much needed one. And I was reading so many positive reviews about this one. That's what really inspired me to go ahead and buy it, because I was pretty much content with my version. But once I listened to this on Spotify and I noticed the difference between it and the original version, I just couldn't pass up without buying this one. And apparently I was fortunate enough to even get a copy because it's actually only available for a limited time. Uh, Other than that, man, I wasn't really too crazy about the packaging. I was hoping that with it being an anniversary reissue, that maybe it would come with some liner notes, maybe explaining some history behind the album, maybe some pictures that the band might have taken from that era. But it really just stays true to the original version for the most part. The only difference is back here at the back right here where it says, excuse me, right here it says Atomic Fire, which is the band's current label instead of Nuclear Blast. That's about the only difference that I've seen. But the CD cover art, as well as the inside liner notes in the booklet, they're all pretty much the same. But in any case, man, I'm glad to have this version. I'm glad to finally have a version of this album that actually has a better sound quality, because it's one of my favorite Meshuggah albums. And with this remaster, it's just even risen higher in the ranks as being one of my favorites. So definitely check this out if you haven't heard it. Highly recommend it. Okay, so this next CD is the new album from Lacey Sturm, Kenotic, Metanoia. Excuse me. This came out this year as well. This is the follow-up to her last solo album, her first solo album called Life Screams, which I think came out in 2015 or 2016. I also own a physical copy of that. It's right back there on my shelf. But man, I'm a big fan of Lacey Sturm. I've been a huge fan of her ever since I first heard her in Flyleaf. I was a bit bummed out, like most people, when she left the band. But then when I found out that her and her husband had put together a band and they were doing solo work, I jumped at the chance to buy her first solo album, and I had to jump at the chance to get this one. This one, it was worth the wait. I mean, it was a long wait, but it was definitely worth it. It's a great record, a great follow-up to that first album. You know, if anything, I think it might be slightly better. I've noticed that on this album, there's a lot more solos involved. You know, just it's an all-around more heavier record. And Lacey, of course, she always gives a beautiful and passionate performance, man. So I had to jump at the chance to buy this one. Highly enjoyed this record. No sophomore slump. Definitely a great follow-up to her last album, Life Screams. Highly recommend that you check out both of those records if you haven't. And also, she's back in Flyleaf. I think they're under the new name Flyleaf featuring Lacey Sturm. So I'm interested to see what Flyleaf's going to do now, because this was a really good record. So if you haven't heard it, definitely go check this one out too. Probably one of the best hard rock releases that I've heard this year. All right, so this next CD, this is actually not a new release that came out this year. This is actually a old record that came out back in the 90s, but I've actually been trying to get my hands on it for quite some time. And that album is Into Another, Ignaurus. This came out in 1994 originally. But Into Another, post-hardcore band from New York City. How I caught wind of this band was actually through Mike Seatown of Dead End Hip Hop. On his own YouTube channel, he did a video several years ago where he listed like his top 10 or 20 post-hardcore albums, and this one happened to make that list. And I remember he played like a couple of snippets of songs from this record that sounded really good. And I was also familiar with the vocalist from this band, Richie Birkenhead. He actually was the frontman and the lead vocalist of a New York hardcore band I listened to called Underdog, which I also own their only album called The Vanishing Point. And I remember because the first time I heard them was on Grand Theft Auto 4 on the hardcore radio station. Their song called Front to Back was on there, and I immediately enjoyed that song. So to hear this record, man, it's a phenomenal record. Definitely one of the best records I've ever heard. I mean, Richie Birkenhead is one of the greatest vocalists I've ever listened to. I mean, he has a unique style that's very passionate, but it's also beautiful at the same time. It's hard to really explain. You really have to listen to this album or listen to Underdog's album to really understand where I'm coming from. But he's a great vocalist. This is a great record. They really alternate between a lot of different styles, so it's a very diverse rock album. You know, you have elements of post-hardcore, you have elements of alternative rock, alternative metal, some grunge. There's even some mellow acoustic passages that come across in a lot of these songs. It's one of the most interesting rock albums I've ever heard, and I really enjoyed this record. I have been trying to get my hands on this album for a while. Back when Mike Seatown first did that video, I tried to get a copy, but back then the physical copies were really expensive. I think I seen one for like $75 on Amazon, but fortunately I was able to find a copy recently for like $18 and some change, and plus shipping, but still way better than that 75 I saw years ago. And I got a copy finally, and it came in really good condition. I would say almost mint condition. There's not a lot of wear and tear on this CD or anything, so whoever owned this, they took real good care of it. But if you've never listened to Into Another, definitely check out this album and their other records. Their other records sound real good too. They sound real good too. So definitely one of the most unique and diverse rock bands I've ever heard. So definitely check these guys out if you never listened to them. Okay, so next CD, this is back to the new releases of this year. So I got the new Spiritbox EP, The Fear of Fear. Now, I usually don't go out of my way to buy physical copies of EPs, especially these days in time, because most EPs these days are like 3 songs, and they're usually just exclusively digital streaming copies. But I felt I really needed to have a physical copy of The Fear of Fear because I really liked this EP. This has actually become one of my favorite Spiritbox releases. I'll be honest with you, I liked Eternal Blue when it was released, but I also was a little disappointed. I felt that the record really didn't live up to the hype that surrounded it, and it actually kind of dwindled my interest in Spiritbox a little bit. But when I finally got around to listening to this EP, it actually reinvigorated my interest in Spiritbox. So I just jumped at the chance to go get a physical copy. Initially, I couldn't find a physical copy on their website. It was sold out, but I waited a few days, went back on and checked, and they had restocked physical CD copies of this. So I went ahead and purchased it, man. But I really enjoyed this record. It's heavy. They went back to finding that balance between heavy and the more like atmospheric styles that they do. There's also some of the like industrial kind of electronic elements that they really started to really divert to when they did that last EP, Rotoscope. So there's some of those elements in there. I've also can hear a little bit of new metal as well. Still some of those post-metal elements. Not so much of the proggy progressive metal stuff that they initially started out with. I'm kind of hoping that one day maybe they'll kind of bring that back into their sound. But for the most part, 6 songs, they're all very solid. Banger after banger after banger. Enjoyed every last bit of this EP, so I just had to get a physical copy. And I think it's one of the best releases as far as modern metal this year that's come out. And I kind of wish it would have been a full-length album, But in any case, I'm satisfied with what they did here, and I'm anticipating what they're going to do on their next full length. So if you haven't checked out the new Spiritbox EP, The Fear, definitely go check it out. I think it's one of the best releases that they put out in a while. I've enjoyed it. I've listened to this multiple times, and I still continue to enjoy it. So check it out if you haven't. All right, so these are 2 CDs, but they're by the same band, so I'm going to kind of put these together. Well, I am going to put them together, not kind of. So a new band I've gotten into a little bit called Jesus Peace, a hardcore band out of Philadelphia. So I've recently purchased their 2 albums, Only Self and So Unknown. Hope you can see that right there. That good. Do it this way. Yeah, these are their 2 albums, man. Yeah, so they've been making quite a bit of noise here in the past few years. They've been around quite a while, but I think it's in the past maybe 2 or 3 years that they've really started to rise in the ranks of like metalcore, like this new modern era of hardcore that's happening right now. They've toured with bands like Knock Loose and so many other bands, but really good band. How they really got on my radar was through the Metal Trenches YouTube channel. He actually had them in one of his videos, I think earlier this year, and I was a little bit intrigued. So I recently decided to check out their stuff, and I really enjoyed it. So as far as hardcore, metalcore, I would say they lean more towards on the metallic side of those genres. There's a way more of extreme metal influence. To be more specific, I would say it's more death metal and deathcore. And I believe actually, I read somewhere where some of the early formations of the band was initially intended to be just a death metal band. But definitely in the vocals and in the riffs, you get a lot of death metal influence. So definitely if you're somebody that's looking for some of that hardcore music that's a bit more on the metal and extreme side, this is definitely a band I recommend checking out. They've really been killing it in the past few years. I've seen pictures of like their shows. I don't know if I would go to their shows personally, because their shows look pretty outrageous and violent, man. People getting their noses broken, stuff like that. I'm not into that, but in any case, man, this music is really good. Some really pummeling and extreme and brutal hardcore music that I definitely enjoy. So definitely check this band out if you haven't, man. I think they're gonna be a pretty huge band in the next few years. I mean, they're already on that trajectory, man, but I think they're gonna be up there pretty soon. I can see it. So definitely check them out. All right, so that's it for this video as far as my recent CD updates, CD purchases. I have plenty of more CDs that I've purchased in the past months that I haven't even talked about yet. So I mean, I got so much that I can make maybe 10 or 20 videos with what I've gotten, man. But you know, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope I inspired some of you guys to check out some of these artists if you've never heard of them, if you're not familiar with them. I'm pretty sure you'll dig the music. There's a lot of great rock and metal music that I purchased. But in any case, before I go, hope you guys enjoy the new quality of my video. I got an early Christmas present from my aunt. She actually bought me a Logitech webcam, so it actually is giving me better video quality. So my videos aren't going to be as grainy as they have been in the past and so forth. So hope you guys enjoy that. But if you did enjoy this video, hope you all will hit that thumbs up and give me a like, as well as share the video, because it does help the channel. Also, be sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you'll be notified when I drop new content. And I want to give a huge shout out and a thank you to everybody that's been subscribing to the channel, everybody that's been watching the videos, that's been commenting on the videos, compliment me on what I'm doing. I really appreciate it. It definitely motivates me to keep doing this. And as always, hope everybody has a blessed day, a blessed week, and love, peace, and music. Peace out, y'all.